Today we're going to be taking a look at iMac number 3. This is a 27-inch iMac. If you saw my original video, you should see they've got graphics problems. So what we're going to do on this video, I think it's going to end up being broken for parts. So the video is going to be basically showing me how you can recover data off a machine in a similar position like this, as there are a couple of methods, and I just think it'll be a little bit more useful than a video of me just tearing it down and selling it for parts. What we'll do quickly is I'm just going to show you what it does. So I'll just turn it on. So straight off there you can see we've got these horrible green lines on screen, which, well, is pretty much a graphics issue. I can't see it being anything else. These 2011 iMacs, 27-inch, they're known for this exact issue. You can see it's trying to boot in the background, so it points towards it either being a screen issue or a graphics issue. But if you look at my other videos, Mac number 5, that had this exact same issue. I'll leave a link up to this video on the screen now. If you want to have a look at that, that'd be great. So the two methods that we're going to be doing now is method 1, which is basically going into target disk mode. Now for method 1 to work, usually the Mac has to be showing some kinds of life. So if your Mac's completely dead, the odds are is that method 1 isn't going to work, and you're probably best off skipping straight to method 2, where we will be actually physically removing the drive from the iMac and recovering it via a Caddy, therefore not relying on the iMac's hardware at all. Okay, so I've left this Mac for a little bit now. It's pretty much not doing anything, so we're going to start trying to recover the data via target disk mode. Now, depending on which iMac you have, it will depend on the interface which is on the back of the iMac itself. Now, some of these iMacs will have DisplayPort, some of them will have firewire, some of them will have Thunderbolt. This machine here is a 2011 machine, like I say, and it's got Thunderbolt, so I would imagine anything prior to 2011 goes back to firewire, but like I said, this has got both. Well, it must have been in the crossover period. Like I said, some of these models are iMac. I think the 2009s have a DisplayPort and firewire instead of the Thunderbolt. You need a Thunderbolt cable, which is going to look like this, and have the little Thunderbolt symbol on there. And then on the back of the Mac itself, we've got firewire, which is this one here, and then we've got Thunderbolt. So it's one of those that we need to basically plug in. I've also over here got a MacBook Pro. It's one of the ones from my earlier videos. It's the one before this. I'll put a link to this video if you're interested in watching, as we got this one back up and running. And if you look on this Mac, you can see that this also has the Thunderbolt output. So what we're going to do is we're just going to connect these two together. Okay, so now both the ends of the Thunderbolt cable are connected. I'm just going to plug in a keyboard. So you will also need a keyboard. It doesn't have to be a Mac keyboard, but it's better to have a wired one, as a Bluetooth one sometimes doesn't work in this method. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So we just plug that into the USB. And now that the keyboard's connected, we're going to hold down the power button and power off the Mac. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the T on the keyboard and power the Mac back on. Just keep the T held down until you see the logo on screen. And there you go, that's now gone into target disk mode. If you can see that there, that's like the little Thunderbolt symbol there. And then on that side, you've got your firewire symbol. So this one will work over firewire or Thunderbolt. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump onto the MacBook Pro and see if we can see the drive connected. So we're on the desktop now with the MacBook Pro. On here, you can see straight off, we've already got Macintosh HD showing as an orange drive, which means an external Macintosh HD. You can confirm this via going to Disk Utility, which you can find using the little magnifying glass, and type in Disk Utility, or it's in the Applications folder. So in Disk Utility now, we can see that we've got an external Macintosh HD. Also, it should appear on the desktop. If it doesn't appear into the desktop, you need to go into your Finder Preferences and just make sure that the external disks checkbox is ticked. By default it is ticked, but sometimes it can become unchecked, so just make sure that that is ticked. So if we double click and go into that, then we go into users. Yours may look very, very similar to that. It'll definitely have applications, it'll definitely have users and library and such. So if you go into users, in there you will see your username. You'll definitely see the shared account. I've had to blur these out as these are confidential data, which I don't really want to be sharing with anybody. So you should then see your username in there. We go into that. From here you'll see your desktop, documents, downloads, pictures, music, public. And from here you should be able to recover everything from your desktop, documents and downloads. It should look a little bit more familiar on like a user folder. You can just drag and drop it onto the desktop of this machine, or you can plug in a USB drive, and well, that's pretty much it. You have now got your data recovered. If for whatever reason it wouldn't go into target disk mode, or you couldn't get it to appear on the desktop or anything like that, it may be worth swapping it for a firewire cable, trying a different port on either of the Macs, as sometimes this method can be a little bit temperamental. If you do have any problems with this, I would recommend that you unplug the Thunderbolt cable from the Mac which you're trying to recover the data from, and just swap the ports around, keep taking it in and out of target disk mode by powering it off, and just keep trying basically, and eventually it should appear. So yeah, if that didn't detect anything, or you've not been able to get it into target disk mode, you may need to actually remove the hard drive, which we will be doing next. Okay then guys, so if the first method failed, the next thing that we need to do is remove the drive. Now this method that I'm going to show you of actually removing the drive, it's going to vary from machine to machine. If you've got one of these old fat iMacs, this method will work for the 27-inch. So I think they were from 2009 up to 2011. I think that's when these iMacs were released and available, and then they changed to the slimmer one, which the screens are adhesive in, so it's not quite as easy to remove the screen. The first thing that we need to do is remove this front glass. It's actually held in by magnets, so what you can do is if you can get something really thin down the top edge of this screen, you can then get a grip on it on one side and then slowly go along, and then you can just yank it off. The tool which I'll be using is one which I use for removing iPhone screens. The official tool is a pair of plungers, but this does the job just fine. Get a little edge there and then pry it forward. This will try and snap back with the magnet, so just try and keep your finger in there. Don't pull it too far forward or it will just fall off. And then just work your way along, and then there you go, that'll free itself. We can now move that out of the way. Be careful not to break that obviously. Now the next thing that we need to do is remove the screws which are securing the screen in place. I believe there's 4 down each side. They're little torque screws. Okay, so I'm going to start by removing the 4 screws down this right hand side. And next I'm going to remove the other 4 screws down the left hand side of the screen. Okay, so now that them screws have been removed, we need to remove the actual LCD assembly. Be careful leaning the iMac forward as this could fall out, so just be very careful of this. One thing that I am going to do before I do this though is unplug the power, because I forgot to do this. Just unplug that. And what we need to do is basically get an edge in on the screen, and then we can work it forward, and then we can disconnect the cables at the back and remove the LCD. So for this I've just used a screwdriver that I used to remove them, just so it sits forward. Again, I'm going to get an edge and then sit it forward. And then the first thing that you'll see is in this top left hand corner here, there's a cable that needs to be disconnected from the top of the LCD inverter. And this literally just lifts out. You're best off trying to pull on the connector, don't pull on the wires, as if you damage it, it's going to basically break the screen, or at least break the connector. And there you go, that then pulls out. That'll allow you then to pull it forward a little bit more. You can see there's another 2 that are connected here. There's the actual LCD cable, which at the bottom is held on by a little black tab. If you lift up the black tab, that allows a little bar to lift up, and then you can just pull the full connector out, like so. And then the one next to it, which I believe is an LCD temp sensor, you literally just unplug that, that pulls out. And then after this, there's just one more cable, which is down here, which connects to the bottom of the LCD inverter, which just pushes in and pulls out. And then once that's unplugged, we can lift away the screen. And just put this aside, as it can be quite delicate. Okay, so now we can remove the hard drive and attempt to recover the data from it. The hard drive is held in via 2 screws at the top. This is the same screwdriver that you used to remove the screen assembly. Once this is out, we need to unplug the power in the SATA cable, and it will just lift away. One thing that I did forget to mention, be very careful and don't touch this board here, as that's the power supply, and some of these little capacitors can hold a hell of a lot of voltage and basically get electric shock off it. I've done it before, it's not very nice. So we'll unplug the SATA cable from the hard drive, and then the power cable, and then this will now lift out just like that. So we've got our hard drive here. This is the thing that's got all our data on it. The next thing that we need to do, so it'll fit in our Caddy, depending on the type of Caddy. For me, it's one where it slots in, so we need to remove the little standoffs that hold the hard drive in place, including that little bracket. So I'll get on with that now. Okay then, so I've gone and grabbed my Caddy now. This is one that I bought off Amazon a few weeks back, as I do this a little bit more often, so I bought not a great one. It was still only around 20 quid, something like that, but it's better than a standard cheaper one. If you're just trying to recover your data, any will do. They range from 5 to, well, hundreds of pounds basically, but a little £5 one to do. As long as it supports SATA, you'll be fine. This one goes to USB 3, so it can be plugged into a Mac or anything like that. Now, because you are going to be recovering the data, which is on this hard drive, and it's formatted in the Mac OS Extended journaled, you will need to plug your Caddy into another Mac. There will be third-party software available for Windows machines, but I had a Mac lying around, so it wasn't a massive problem for me to just plug it into another Mac. So I'm going to pop that in there now. As you can see, that has now lit up blue. I've plugged it into the Mac, and we're just going to jump onto the Mac and see what we can see on this drive. Okay then, so we are now on the desktop of the Mac, which I've plugged the Caddy into. As you can see, we've got Macintosh HD on the desktop as it was before. It took a little time for it to mount. It probably took around 5 minutes or so for it to appear. If you open up this utility, which you can go to Finder, you will see there'll be an external Macintosh HD. Like I say, it took a little bit of time for it to mount, but again, it's the same structure. You go into Macintosh HD. From there, you have your user profile, and then you'll be able to see the username which you used to log in with. Go into there, and you'll see the desktop documents and downloads, and you'll be able to recover the data from there. So that's it for this tutorial. What I'm going to be doing is I'll just do a bit of a time lapse of me stripping the rest of the iMac down, as I did do this exact teardown before with another Mac, which I'll leave a link to the video if you're interested in seeing that, where I just tore the machine down and then sold all the parts off of it. I hope this video has helped you. If not, leave a comment below. If it did help you, leave a comment as well. Like the video, subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.